All the big names in NFL free agency have found teams, and there are a few stragglers still out there that could end up changing some things. But with the free agent period basically coming to a close, I think it's a good time for us to do some updated top 30 running back rankings. I'm going to be talking about running backs today. Jake is going to have wide receivers coming on Wednesday, and then I'm going to do a combined quarterbacks and tight ends on Friday. And these things could really end up changing with the NFL draft. But as of right now, we thought it was a good time to talk about some updated rankings and see where some of these players stand. And as of right now, I've only got 3 running backs inside the number 1 tier. My top 3 running backs for 2025, as of right now, will be Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. For Saquon Barkley, we saw what he did last season. You could expect a similar season this year. Who knows? Maybe he'll take a shot at that record once again in 2025. Bijan Robinson, we finally saw him start to put together the type of season we knew he could have when he was drafted. But with a new coaching regime last year, they really relied on him a whole lot more. And just like Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson does a lot in the passing game as of well. But their athleticism on the ground and their big playability of what makes these guys top 3 for this season. Now, Tier 2 is going to have a lot more running backs in it, and Tier 1 is just kind of separated from Tier 2 because of their big playability, their volume, and their touchdown potential. When you take a look at what they can do with their work in the passing game on the ground, the ability to score TDs and have big plays, all of that together puts them in Tier 1. Where Tier 2, maybe they would be missing something to kind of push them a little bit higher. You might be asking, well, why isn't Derrick Henry in Tier 1? We know he's going to score a lot of touchdowns on the ground, but he is another year older, and because of that, we just have to be a little bit cautious. If the Ravens ever decide, let's just tone it back a little bit. We're not going to cut down his volume substantially, but let's just tone it down a little bit to keep him healthy. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. That's why he's number 4 for me. We know he does have some big playability, maybe not as much in the past, but he's still going to be a super solid running back. Josh Jacobs at number 5. If the Green Bay Packers can add a wide receiver in the draft, somebody maybe in the first round that gives him a true wide receiver 1, things get a lot better for Josh Jacobs. Even last year, without having a passing game that really felt elite like it may have had the year before, he was still doing a really good job, and we know he's going to get a ton of volume and do some good things with it. Kyren Williams at number 6. We know Sean McVay loves to hand the ball off to one running back. We know Kyren Williams is going to be used at the goal line over and over and over. But now they've added Devontae Williams to Puka Nacua. Absolutely going to be another really good season for Kyren Williams with the passing game hopefully feeling a little bit better this year. Devon Achane at number 7, he did it. He stayed healthy, and that has been really the biggest knock on him, and one of the reasons why people just didn't view him as a top 10 running back. If he stays healthy once again, we're absolutely golden, but one thing we know for certain, he's definitely the RB1 this year. Going into last season, there were concerns some Raheem Mostert may still get a few touches here or there. That didn't really end up happening. You still got Jalen Wright there, and maybe they add someone in the draft, but as of right now, Devon Achane is going to be the dude. Jonathan Taylor at number 8. I went back and forth with him and Devon Achane quite a bit, and ultimately, I gave Achane the heads up because the big playability. Now, Jonathan Taylor's got some big playability as well. And last season was a little bit of a slow start, started to come on towards the end. He was healthy, though, and that's exactly what we need to see. Big thing for him in this offense, it's the quarterback play. We need someone to be more consistent, whether it be Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. At number 9, James Cook, and I could see an argument for him even being over Taylor and Achane at this point. If you wanted to go that high with him, you absolutely could. He had a fantastic season in 2024, and he definitely could replicate it this year. Maybe Keon Coleman grows a little bit and becomes more of the true wide receiver 1 that they needed out of him. We know that they've added some other additions like Josh Palmer to stretch the field, like Gabe Davis once did, and maybe they do end up adding another pass catcher in the draft. And who knows, maybe Dalton Kincaid becomes a thing finally. At number 10, Bucky Irving. He looked really good at times last season, and he could be poised for the same type of outlook this year. Rachaad White right now is an afterthought. Bucky Irving, can he hold up to a true RB1 type of workload? If not, we could still see Rachaad White mixed in there every once in a while. And if that does, that hurts Bucky Irving's upside just a little bit, especially if White is continued to be used in the passing game. And at number 11, Najee Harris. This guy has a great opportunity to have his best season yet. I don't know if we'll see as many touchdowns as we need out of a top 10 running back, and the volume may be strictly on the ground as well. But if he does good things on the ground, he's definitely going to be an RB1 based on that. Now to kick off tier 3, this is the tier where there's a few question marks and maybe a couple of different areas, and that's why I just can't get a whole lot higher with them. Breece Hall, for example. Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback, and running that RPO in the backfield may absolutely be really good for Breece Hall to see some explosive plays. Linebackers trying to keep track of Breece Hall and Justin Fields are going to have some troubles, but Garrett Wilson really is the main pass catcher right now without a whole lot of help around him. What do they do in the draft? With Christian McCaffrey at number 13, we've got to know that there's a probability that he's going to lose some reps, whether it be just because he's injured and he's not out there for the full 17-game season, or maybe it's because they just lighten his workload. Don't use him in the passing game as much. Isaac Guerrero spells him more often than what we think, and because of that, I think we slip him into that high-end running back 2 range, especially if he misses time. Chase Brown at number 14, I still think that he's the guy for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they did bring Samaje Perine back, and because of that, Perine could get some looks in the passing game that we would like Chase Brown to have instead. But I'm also not ruling it out that the Cincinnati Bengals may add a running back in the draft. At number 15, Kenneth Walker. New Seattle offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak made it a point to talk about Kenneth Walker when he was at his introductory press conference, and have even brought it up since then. He hasn't really talked about Zach Charbonnet that often, but he has made it clear he thinks Kenneth Walker is a special player and wants to utilize him as such. At number 16, Joe Mixon. And really the problem with Mixon now is the offensive line he's going to be running behind. They have made some disastrous changes to the offensive line, and we really need to pay attention as to whether or not they try to fortify that in the draft. At number 17, Alvin Kamara. There could be some really good things for him coming up with Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator, but we've seen him continuously slip downhill over the last couple of years, where he's just not the player that he used to be. Now, if Kellen Moore can maybe bring some of that energy back, or maybe utilize him a little bit differently, we can see him bounce back and be closer to an RB1. But as of right now, I've got to see it before I believe it. At number 18, David Montgomery. Yes, there's been a changing of the guard on the offensive side of the ball, with Ben Johnson going to Chicago and Johnny Morton returning to Detroit as offensive coordinator. Now, Morton was a senior offensive advisor just a couple of years ago for the Lions, and Ben Johnson has actually given Johnny Morton credit for how he started designing his game plans, and even some of the special tricks and developments he was putting in there that made his offense so unique. Johnny Morton should be a seamless transition. We should still see a lot of David Montgomery and a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. I just feel like it's going to be hard for the Lions to keep Jahmyr Gibbs off the field as much as they have in the last couple of years. And number 19, Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, you've got Antonio Gibson, and that's fine. As long as Ramondre Stevenson holds on to the football, we're going to be playing some power football with him this year. And Stephon Diggs, hopefully he is healthy towards the beginning of the season. If he is, Drake May is going to have that offensive weapon to kind of help clear things out a little bit more than what we saw last year. And even if they add another offensive weapon in the draft, that's only going to help Stevenson. Now, it does feel like every year we've got that one running back that maybe a whole lot of people aren't talking about, that level up their game and start to make their way into the conversation of being a real fantasy asset. Last year, I didn't hear a whole lot of people talking about Chuba Hubbard. We did. In fact, we dubbed him as a late round sleeper that you may want to pick up to strengthen your bench. And look what he ended up doing for your fantasy team. Well, this year, if you want to level up your game, do it in your fantasy draft, but also do it by heading on over to turtlebeach.com and using code word headliners to make a purchase of maybe you need a new mouse, maybe you need a new keyboard, or some of the fantastic headsets that you absolutely need to be trying out. If you want to level up your gaming experience, media experience, listening to music, watching movies, whatever it may be, Turtle Beach is the way to do it. Code word headliners get 10% off your entire order. James Conner at tier 4. He was very good at times last season. He wasn't explosive. He wasn't a high-end running back. And obviously with Trey Benson lurking, James Conner at any point in time could start to lose touches. But just based on what he did last year and still being the incumbent starter, he needs to be mentioned. And number 22, Tyrone Tracy. And right now I have to keep him in tier 4, even though I want to put him in tier 3. Why? Because the New York Giants adding a running back in the draft seems very likely, and they still have Devin Singletary there. And even though Devin Singletary probably isn't going to take enough touches away from Tyrone Tracy that he isn't fantasy viable, another young running back added in the draft, especially before round 4, could definitely be a pivotal issue for Tyrone Tracy. And number 3, Tony Pollard. He's a little bit lower right now while we wait to hear what the quarterback situation is. If they stay at number 1 and take Cam Ward, Tony Pollard could definitely jump to tier 3 pretty easy. At number 24, Brian Robinson Jr. This is another guy that I like and I really want to move a lot higher. And depending on what happens in the draft, he absolutely could go higher. They still have Austin Eckler, but the addition of Deebo Samuel means maybe there's a few handoffs in the backfield to him, but this offense is going to be so good that Brian Robinson Jr. maybe won't ever become an RB1 type of player, but he could be a really solid flex RB2 type of running back that we can start every week. At number 25, Javonte Williams. Landing in Dallas is definitely a good thing for Williams. He could end up being the lead back, replacing Rico Dowdle there. The big issue is does Dallas add anybody? And there's still a candidate to add a running back in the first round, which would really kill Javonte Williams. But as of right now, as the RB1, he definitely has a lot of potential, and he's going to be a guy that we keep an eye on that could end up cracking the top 24. At number 25, Jaylen Warren, another guy that depends on the draft. I love Jaylen Warren, but Arthur Smith hates everybody for some reason. And because of that, Jaylen Warren just was never really utilized last year. It was Najee Harris. But Jaylen Warren, as of right now, is the incumbent starter. And this Pittsburgh offense, they're still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen at the quarterback position. Is it Aaron Rodgers? Are they going to have to try and draft somebody? Is it Mason Rudolph? If it's Mason Rudolph, we got problems. Jaylen Warren's not going to be nearly as high as I would like. At number 27, Isaiah Pacheco. They've re-signed Kareem Hunt, and I also could see them adding another running back in the second or third round. So as of right now, Isaiah Pacheco, with those two things in mind, and the fact that he is a guy that continues to get banged up, he's definitely going to be a lot lower for me, especially if he misses time. And number 28, Tank Bigsby. Now, the big thing with him is how utilized is Travis Etienne going to be next year. We know that when Travis Etienne is healthy, we're seeing like a 50-50 split. And if that happens, it's really hard for Tank Bigsby to make his way up into the top 24 range. He's going to have some top 24 weeks, but to be there consistently is going to be tough. Travis Etienne missing time would be the biggest thing. Also, we could see a new look offense there as well, and it's going to depend on what the incoming coaching staff thinks for their running backs. And number 29, Jerome Ford. This is a guy that at times has shown us some really good efficiency numbers. He hasn't really had to be the guy for long periods of time, though. So am I really invested in him as a top 24 running back? No, but depending on what Cleveland does with the running back position in the draft, and maybe they do bring Nick Chubb back on like a one-year deal, if anything like that happens, Ford may not see as many looks as we would like. At number 30, DeAndre Swift. Now, Ben Johnson has already ran him out of one city once. Is he going to run him out of a second city? Keep in mind, Ben Johnson, when he was the offensive coordinator for Detroit, a couple of years ago, they signed David Montgomery in free agency, and then they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Chicago is definitely in play for Ashton Jeanty there at number 10 overall. We'll see if they end up going with him, maybe an Omari and Hampton if they were to trade back. I don't really know for sure, but DeAndre Swift, as of right now, he's safe given the offense, but Ben Johnson could give him the boot really quick. All right, just a few quick guys to touch on that are just on the outside looking in. Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton. Ashton Jeanty is almost guaranteed to be not only a top 30 running back, but definitely a top 24 to top 15 running back. And if he lands with like the Chicago Bears or the Las Vegas Raiders, he could easily be inside the top 12 with no issues whatsoever. But we don't know his team yet. Same thing with Omarion Hampton. He definitely has top 12 potential depending on where he lands. But if he doesn't land in the right spot, I'm not going to rank him right now. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Right now, I feel like Jordan Mason is the way better bet to be the main running back. From a fantasy perspective, I think he's a whole lot better than what Aaron Jones would be from Minnesota. But one of these two guys, whoever the clear-cut starter is going to be inside the top 30. Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime. Both of these guys could end up being the starter come week 1. But the Broncos are also a spot for Omarion Hampton a little bit later in the first round that would kill both of these guys. Travis Etienne, if the new coaching staff likes him more, does he end up jumping into the top 30 and Tank Bigsby falls out instead? Isaac Grindo for San Francisco. He's a must-draft handcuff when it comes to Christian McCaffrey. In fact, if you have Christian McCaffrey, you've got to have Grindo. If you don't have McCaffrey, Grindo's not the worst pick in the later rounds. Austin Eckler, his work in the passing game absolutely could end up helping out this year and get him into the top 30, but Debo could end up hurting that as well. And Braylon Allen is a guy that we saw take touches away from Breece Hall last year, but will Aaron Glenn's offensive staff really want to utilize Breece Hall as the main running back? It wouldn't shock me. But also, Aaron Glenn comes from a team that utilized 2 running backs at the same time as well. Headliner Nation, there's my updated top 30 running backs and a few guys on the outside looking in post free agency as we head into draft season. We're just under a month away from the draft in Green Bay. Looking forward to it. Stay right here for all of our updated rookie content, rankings, breaking news, whatever it may be. Your one-stop source for football, draft coverage, fantasy football, and everything else that you need when it comes to the NFL and college game. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here, though. Peace out, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.